If you grew up in the Midwest, chances are you can still hear it now. The slow pop of a John Deere rolling through a cool morning, with corn rows stretching all the way to the fence line. These tractors were not just machines. They were part of the family, part of the work, and part of the years that built American farming. Today, we are counting down 10 iconic John Deere models. And with each one, the story only grows more legendary. Number 10. The John Deere Model B. For a lot of farm families, the Model B was never the biggest tractor in the shed, and that is exactly why so many people still remember it with real affection. It was the kind of John Deere that stayed close to home, fired up early, and always seemed to have another job waiting before the day was done. The Model B first appeared in late 1934 for the 1935 model year, and it stayed in production all the way until 1952. Deere built it to do the work of 4 horses, and in those years, that meant something. It was not just another machine on the farm. It was a dependable helper, one that could plow, seed, rake hay, shell corn, grind feed, and handle the daily chores that kept a family place running. That is why the Model B is the right tractor to open this countdown. It speaks to memory before it speaks to power. For many families, this was the tractor a young boy first learned to steer in low gear. It was the one dad counted on for lighter row crop work, small jobs around the barn, and all the little tasks that never made headlines, but always had to get done. The Model B was practical, familiar, and honest. In many ways, it brought John Deere into everyday family life, not just out into the field. And that is what makes this story so special, because the next tractor took that row crop idea and pushed it towards something even bigger. Number 9. The John Deere Model G. If the Model B felt like the dependable hand around the place, the Model G felt like John Deere recognizing that American farming was growing up. First introduced in 1937 and built through 1953, the G was one of Deere's larger letter series tractors. It arrived at a time when farms were getting bigger and row crop work was demanding more from both men and machines. For families across the Midwest, that meant something real. Acreage was expanding, expectations were changing, and a tractor like the G did more than save labor. It changed what a family believed it could get done in a single day. You can almost picture it now, out on wider ground, pulling strong, with that deep 2-cylinder sound rolling across the fields on a cool morning. What made the Model G so important was not just its size. It still felt like a John Deere people understood. It was solid, familiar, and built in a way farmers could work on with their own hands. But at the same time, it pointed to something bigger ahead. Farming was becoming more productive, more ambitious, and more dependent on steady mechanical power than ever before. That is why the Model G belongs on this list. It helped bridge the gap between the old horse farming mindset and the growing belief that one tractor could truly change the scale of row crop farming. And the next machine would prove that Deere was not only building stronger tractors, it was also learning how to make them better for the man in the seat. Number 8. The John Deere 60. The John Deere 60 is where this story starts to feel more modern. Built from 1952 to 1956, it was more than just another 2-cylinder tractor. It marked a time when John Deere began showing farmers that comfort, control, and ease of operation mattered just as much as raw pulling power. With features like power steering, the 60 brought a smoother, easier feel to the workday. And for many farm families, that made a real difference. That difference was not always something you could measure on paper. You felt it in the seat. You felt it in your arms after a long day of planting corn, cultivating rows, pulling wagons, doing chores, or mowing roadsides. The John Deere 60 was not remembered because it was flashy. It was remembered because it made hard work feel a little less hard. And that is exactly why it belongs on this list. The 60 represents a quieter kind of progress, the kind that helped a family get more done without wearing the driver down quite so quickly. It showed that a tractor could still be tough and dependable, while also being easier to handle hour after hour. By this point, Deere was no longer just building tractors that could work. It was building tractors farmers wanted to stay on. And the next model would take that old 2-cylinder idea and refine it so well that many people still see it as one of the finest looking row crop Deere's ever built. Number 7. The John Deere 630. By the time the John Deere 630 came along in the late 1950s, John Deere had nearly polished the classic two-cylinder row crop tractor to perfection. Built from 1958 to 1960, the 630 was not the beginning of Deere row crop farming. It was the mature version of it, cleaner, sharper, and built with a clear understanding of what farmers needed in corn and bean country. That is what makes the 630 such an important part of this countdown. It brings to mind a time when many Midwest family farms felt balanced. Life was never easy, and the work was never light, but there was a rhythm to it. The 630 fit right into that rhythm. It could cultivate, pull, and handle regular field work, all while keeping the sound, feel, and simple design that older operators trusted. There was something steady about the 630. It sat in that sweet spot between old and new. Old enough to feel classic, new enough to feel fully developed. It was the kind of tractor that did not need to prove itself with flashy changes. It simply showed up, did the job, and earned respect one season at a time. For many families, the 630 was the tractor that never really left the farm, even after newer machines arrived. It stayed in the shed because nobody wanted to let it go. It had earned its place the hard way. And yet, as good as the 630 was, the next tractor would show where the real row crop revolution truly began. Number 6. The John Deere Model A. If this list is truly about the golden age of row crop farming, then the John Deere Model A has to be one of its foundation stones. When it arrived in 1934, it introduced a new row crop design that helped change the way farmers looked at field work. With features like a new steering system, adjustable wheel spacing, a raised operator platform, and power lift, the Model A felt like a tractor built for the job from the start, not a machine trying to adapt after the fact. And that is what made it such a turning point. The Model A helped John Deere feel truly at home in row crop farming. It fit the rows better, it fit the season better, and it fit the daily needs of a working farm better. For families across the Midwest, that meant more than convenience. It meant having a tractor that felt ready for real work, year after year, through planting, cultivating, and the long days that defined farm life. But the story of the Model A is not just about design. It is about memory. Older viewers do not hear Model A and think only about features. They think about a father climbing into the seat before daylight, an uncle working steadily through the afternoon, a hired man trusted to keep things moving when the season could not wait. In that way, the Model A feels bigger than metal. It feels like part of the family story. And for all its importance, the next Deere would show that the two-cylinder era still had one of its strongest chapters left to write. Number 5. The John Deere 730 Diesel. The John Deere 730 Diesel belongs right here because it feels like the last great deep breath of that classic John Deere sound. When it arrived in 1958 and remained in row crop production through 1961, it carried the heartbeat of the old two-cylinder era, but it did so with the strength and efficiency of a machine built for changing times. For a lot of family farms, that meant something special. The 730 Diesel still sounded like the Deere they had known for years, but it worked with the kind of confidence that told you the future was getting close. It had real authority in the field. It had the fuel economy serious operators respected. And it had the kind of reputation that could make a man stop at an auction years later and take a second look. That is why the 730 Diesel matters so much in a story about the golden age of row crop farming. This was the point where John Deere proved that its older engine design could still stand tall, even as the farming world was moving towards something newer and more modern. It was strong, steady, and trusted, the kind of tractor that earned respect without ever asking for attention. There is something a little bittersweet about the 730 Diesel too. It feels like sunset light at the edge of a field. Pride, strength, and the quiet feeling that one chapter is nearing its end. This was not just a tractor people used. It was one of the last machines that let farm families hold on to an entire era just a little longer. And then everything changed because the next tractor did not improve the old John Deere way. It replaced it. Number 4. The John Deere 3010. The John Deere 3010 is where this countdown takes a real turn. Up to this point, we have been talking about tractors that carried the sound, shape, and feel of the old John Deere years. But when the 3010 arrived in the early 1960s, it signaled something different. This was part of Deere's new generation of power, and it was more than just a new model. It was a clear step away from the two-cylinder identity that had defined the company for so long. For many Midwest farm families, that change was impossible to miss. A young man who had grown up around a Model B or a Model S suddenly saw a tractor that looked lower, sleeker, and more modern. The 3010 did not just look different in the shed. It changed the whole feeling of a day's work. It suggested that farming was moving into a new age, and John Deere intended to lead the way. On many family farms, the 3010 became the dependable tractor for everyday middle work. It handled planting, cultivating, chore work, hauling, and utility jobs with steady confidence. It fit the operation well without feeling too large or too costly for the average farm. That made it practical, approachable, and easy to trust. More than anything, the 3010 introduced families to a new idea. John Deere's future was not going to sound like its past. And that is what makes this tractor so important in the story of row crop farming. Because if the 3010 opened the door to a new chapter, the next tractor was the one many farmers truly fell in love with. Number 3. The John Deere 3020. The John Deere 3020 is one of those tractors that earned affection the honest way. Built from 1964 to 1972, it never had a shout to make its mark. It simply showed up, did the work, and became the kind of machine a farm family trusted without a second thought. Even today, the 3020 still earns respect from collectors, and the rare front-wheel assist versions draw even more attention. That tells you something. This tractor was never just useful in its own time. It left a lasting impression, and that is really the heart of the 3020. It fit into nearly every corner of farm life. It could plant in the spring, rake hay in the summer, auger grain in the fall, pull wagons, handle chores, and still be the tractor someone reached for first when there was work to do. It felt nimble enough to trust, but solid enough to respect. On a Midwest family farm, that balance meant everything. What makes the 3020 so memorable is that it was not trying to be flashy. It was handy, and on a real farm, handy counts for a lot. Many viewers may not call it the most famous John Deere ever built, but plenty of them will remember it as one of the most useful. It was the kind of tractor that always seemed to have another job waiting and somehow never felt out of place doing any of them. That is why the 3020 belongs this high on the list. It won people over through daily life, not drama. But as beloved as the 3020 was, the next machine took Deere's new generation promise and turned it into a bold statement of power. Number 2. The John Deere 4010. The John Deere 4010 is where Deere's future stopped being a theory and became a force. Built from 1961 to 1963, it was the star of the new generation line, and for many farmers, it felt like a true step into a different era. This was not just a newer tractor. It brought more power, better comfort, and a whole new sense of what a row crop machine could be in the field. When the 4010 showed up on a Midwest farm, expectations changed. Bigger implements made more sense. Long hours felt more productive. The tractor looked modern, felt modern, and worked like it belonged to a faster-moving age of American farming. It had the kind of usable power that did not just sound impressive. It changed the pace of real work. That is what made the 4010 so important. It was not only about horsepower. It was about confidence. In many family stories, the 4010 was the tractor that told the neighborhood a farm was moving ahead. It said this operation planned to keep up and maybe even get ahead. It felt like a serious investment, but one that promised serious return in the field. And that is why the 4010 ranks this high. It turned John Deere's new direction into something farmers could see, feel, and trust. But remarkable as the 4010 was, one Deere still stood above it, a tractor that became more than a model number. It became the standard. Number 1. The John Deere 4020. If there is one John Deere that truly defines the golden age of row crop farming, it is the 4020. Built from 1964 to 1972, the 4020 became one of the most respected tractors John Deere ever made. It earned that place for a reason. This was a tractor that brought together power, reliability, and modern features in a way that felt just right for the farms of the American Midwest. But the real story of the 4020 is not just found in sales numbers or factory records. It is found in memory. This is the tractor many families remember in the field at planting time, on the tillage pass, at the auger, or hauling wagons during harvest. It had the strength to handle serious row crop work, but it never felt too big to be useful every day. That mattered. On a family farm, the best tractor was not always the fanciest one. It was the one you trusted. And that is exactly what the 4020 became. It was the complete package. It had the power to matter, the size to fit real work, and the dependability to stay important even after newer machines arrived. Farmers did not just admire the 4020. They counted on it. That is why it finishes at number 1. The 4020 did not simply belong to the golden age of row crop farming. In many ways, it came to represent that age. When people picture a classic John Deere in the Midwest, this is often the one they see first. Those tractors did more than work the rows. They carried families through planting season, tight harvest windows, and the kind of years when every pass across the field truly mattered. For a lot of folks, those old John Deeres still sound like home. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which model meant the most on your farm? Or which one do you still miss hearing the most? Share your story in the comments, and let us remember that golden age together.